Hi my babies, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome in. I'm gonna be here to guide you guys through the beginning of your careers. Today we're getting into a refill. Sit down, get your popcorn, because y'all know, get comfortable, and let's get into this refill. First things first, this originally a little backstory on these nails. They were originally almond shaped, and then she wanted to go for square. We ended up doing like a coffin, because you can't, once you already tapered out the side walls and it's narrow on the side, opposed to I'll do a little diagram here. I can't make it square. So point is, we ended up here, which is coffin shaped. We're gonna first start by debulking, and as you guys know, I always recommend to first things first, start by pulling the nail, the e-file, towards you. So over grip is what you see my hand here doing, and I'm going to vary from over and under, but it's always recommended. I have the bad habit, I do a lot of long nails, so you'll always catch me in this sort of grip, which is the under grip. But I'm always going to recommend an over grip, because that's the most natural, the safest to protect your hands. You know, I've been doing this now 6 years, and your girl's already getting pain, which is a little stressful. But so you're definitely going to want to do an over grip and start pulling towards you. And we're going from using the tip and the belly of the bit and pulling towards you. And as you maneuver, you'll start shifting the weight of where you're holding the bit, if that makes any sense. I'll probably add a little slow motion here for you for the next nail. So fun fact, these resin charms are obsessed with acrylic. Rather, if you do it with Bondini or a gel glue, they will marry each other. It's very difficult to take them off with the nipper. I have, and it's actually broken through and pulled off acrylic. Therefore, I rather just drill them off. But keep in mind that because it is resin, it's like a powder and it floats a lot more. So if you don't have the dust collector, I highly recommend to use a mask. We should all be using masks regardless, but especially when you're removing that resin. As well as you saw, I drilled off the charms, because those charms, again, with the nipper, it's so hard. With the glue, it literally floods the sides of the diamond. Therefore, it's so hard to get a little corner to pop off. Please wear safety goggles or safety glasses, face shields, whatever you want, while doing that, because it is glass. At least if you're buying like Swarovski or any of that, it is going to be glass. And it actually happened, thank God it was with my sister, but it happened to me where I was drilling off a crystal, and a piece of glass, of course, got stuck in her finger. And it was extremely difficult to take it off, given because I'm drilling it off. It's literally drilling it to fine little baby pieces. It was so hard to take that thing off. And obviously she was in very much pain. Thank God that's never happened to me with a client. Also, something to know when doing that. So make sure you're wearing gloves, make sure your eyes are protected, and very lightly dust off. And I've never had an issue with that. Jumping back into the nails. So now that I removed all of the prior work that we had, which was on the superficial, we're gonna start working on the natural nail. As you guys know, I do Russian Express for all my clients. Yes or yes, you guys are getting beautiful, delicious cuticles when you guys book with me. So with that being said, I'm gonna push all of the cuticles back first. And as I have given this tip, when pushing, this client, I think it was like her fourth appointment. So her cuticles are pretty used to this by now, but you're going to want to push, and with the pointer finger and your thumb, you do a slight pressure and do a slight roll motion, and that's going to help push that cuticle up and out. So when you go in with the flame bit, it's already going to be nice and prepared for the flame bit, and it's not going to get stuck. I feel that a lot of people like to avoid or just skip the pusher, and it's just such an easy step. It's literally going to take you less than 30 seconds, and that's just going to reassure again that there are no no hangnails, no sticky cuticles, because if you would go in with this flame bit and try to tuck under that cuticle pocket and it's not completely open, you're risking the chance for your bit to get stuck and possibly damage the nail plate, which obviously we do not want. So we're doing this, we're only using the tip of the bit, and we are tucking it right under the cuticle and pushing, and we're doing circular little motions to go all around to the other side. If you watch my other video about the Russian manicure, this is an express Russian manicure. So I'm not going to detail as much as I did on that video. So that process right there of the flame bit is pretty fast. As you saw, it was probably less than a minute. And then you just jump right into the sanding band. The sanding band is also going to open the cuticle pocket. And this is also the time that you want to notice if there's any lifting anywhere that you have to remove. This is when you're going to do it. And you do want to use the bulking one the most you possibly could to what you are obviously comfortable with to remove all of the bulk of where there is lifting. So when you get to the sanding band, it's literally going to just flick and lift off. Remember, that product's already lifted and not adhere to the natural nail plate. So when you go over it, you're only going over the superficial, the acrylic. You don't want to touch the natural nail plate, because then that's when you start making rings of fires. So here you see there is a little bit of lifting, and I'm only tucking at only touching at the acrylic, and I'm spacing in between to reassure she doesn't get a heat spike. When working on your non-dominant side, it's going to be best for you to bend the knuckle downwards so you can get into that side wall, and that's going to make it a lot more easier. So I work on my right hand to get onto that right side wall. So you'll see me bending her finger down. There's that overhand grip. And just working on the superficial. First, I like to actually work on the natural nail, and then I'll work my way down to the superficial to reassure that there's any lifting or anything that has to be removed or exfoliated. And also, when I am working with the turbo bit, I remove most of the gel polish, but if there's still some on the side wall of the superficial, that's when I'll use this to just go ahead and buff it off. Do not overthink this step. It's such a light pressure that it's basically like very to the touch, right? So we use the e-file because we want it to do the work for us. So you don't want to actually apply any pressure really. You're just adding texture. So when you put the acrylic on top, it can adhere correctly onto that nail. I am going to zoom through this part. I do like to add this so you guys can see what it looks like from far, so you guys can see the motion of my wrist. I feel like that was very confusing when I first started doing nails. Like, how do I grab this machine? And this, I feel like this view gives you a better understanding of what that looks like. Let me know if this is beneficial for you guys, so I know to continue adding these shots or to just remove them and just show you guys one hand. And I feel like the videos would be a little shorter too. So personally, I think this is like my biggest hack, if you would, when it comes to doing nails. Because without this step, I think it just makes such a difference in really opening the cuticle pocket and really pushing the cuticle up and out of your way. So once you go in to cut and remove everything, it's so much easier to identify what is live skin, what is not, and it makes it very hard for you to nip your client. There you saw I went ahead and show you the difference, and you could see there's a lot more nail space, like exposed nail plate on that other hand. So here I use scissors. I have never got into the nippers. I don't know what it is. I think I have like a mental block with the nippers. I just feel like I cannot see where I'm going. So as early as I could in my career, I went and bought the scissors. I will have them linked on my Amazon storefront, and they're incredible. They're super easy. Again, since we exfoliated, we can see exactly what needs to be removed. Excuse my dog in the background. But we can see exactly what has to be removed, and you just go ahead and clean that up. It's super easy. I know in the beginning I used to get very stressed about cutting people, but ever since I started doing the Express Russian manicure, it has been the least of my worries, unless they haven't gotten serviced in a long time. Here is another step I will absolutely never skip, and that is using swipe. After all the dust, the acrylic removal, like your nail plates, you never know, your clients can touch their face in between this. So once you swipe, that's really going to cleanse the nail plate and reassure that once you put on dehydrator, it's nice, clean, free of all oils. Because if there's any oil, again, if they touch their face, they have their makeup, they move their hair out their face, any of that can prevent your nails from adhering correctly. So I always use swipe to cleanse off the nail plate, and then I go in with my dehydrator, and then I go into application. So we're going to push the cuticle back and then get into application. I did leave the little part of you seeing me go into my dabbing dish. I submerge the entire brush into the dabbing dish, reensuring that there is like no bubbles, right? Especially this is the first acrylic of the day, so you want to reinsure that the hairs are basically moisturized with the product, right? The purple liquid. So I'm going to submerge it completely into my dabbing dish. I'm going to press, let's say if I'm going to press onto the top, the front, right, of my brush, then you're going to pick up with the bottom of the brush. And you don't want to press, whatever you press onto the dabbing dish, you don't want that same side to be where you pick up the acrylic, because it's going to be drier than the other side. You just push all the liquid towards the other side. So I like to just press about once or twice, and then I will pick up acrylic. You can kind of see what the acrylic is doing, or maybe it's a little too cold, it's a little too runny. I like to drain mine a little bit, as you can see on my towel, and then I'll go in and apply it. Since her natural nails are grown out, you're also probably going to see me going ahead and adding a little bit reassurance on the products on the side. Since now we're filing into natural nail and not acrylic, it's not going to be as sturdy. Therefore, to reassure that the nails are going to last another month, I like to go ahead and just make sure there's a little extra acrylic, because we haven't filed. So once you file, it's going to get even thinner. So I'd rather thicken it up a little bit and then thin it out a little bit and see where it's looking from there. Another thing I like to do is moisturize the acrylic, the dry acrylic, with a little bit of purple liquid before I go in. And that just reassures that if by any chance, if my bead is not at the correct ratio and it's a little dry on the bottom, the purple liquid that's on the bottom is going to moisturize that bead from the bottom and reassure that there's a perfect adhesion between both products. The biggest thing here also is less is more. Literally, I used to try to be like a one bead type of girl. Don't do it. Just start off small to medium beads. That's all you really need, no matter how long that nail is. If you start off with rational size beads that you know how to manage, the outcome's gonna be a lot easier. And I promise you, nails, I used to think like they had to be super thick to be durable. They do not. They just need about like 1 or 2 millimeters, and that's all the thickness it needs. And 2 millimeters is like super extra long nails. So probably something like my nails currently. But now we're getting into the fun part, the designing. That first layer that you just saw me put, fun fact guys, I literally ended up accidentally putting slow-mo on my camera, hence why all of this is sped up. I am so sorry. I promise I'll try to do better. But I end up putting base on the bottom. This is a step I like to take just to reassure that there's a nice slip layer and a very smooth layer. You can also put top coat. I just don't use my base that much because I have a lot of girls that do acrylic. So because I rather use my base than my top coat. So you can also use top coat, and that just makes it very easy for when you paint on the French. Here we're doing, I think it was a light blue French. And I like to go in with a brush to detail the smile line. And as well as I like to go, I have an angle brush. That's what I like. I see a lot of people that use like a round dome brush. I prefer an angle brush. I feel like it's easier for me to control where the brush hairs are going, and I will turn depending on what side I'm cleaning up to go ahead and use the angle to my advantage to make it easier to clean that smile line. So that's what we're going to be doing here. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but I kind of switch up how I do my French as I go. So I've definitely tried the method when I just go ahead and like draw, just paint over, and then go ahead and clean with that angle brush. Works for me, and my hand is going with it some days it's not, which is why I vary between drawing most of it on and then going back and detailing with the brush and then cleaning with the other brush. So it just really depends on like what my flow is that day. So you'll see me test out a couple different methods as I go to see if that felt comfortable to me at that moment, at that day. So I encourage you guys to do the same and just switch it up, see what you're feeling that day. If it felt easy, then continue that same method. Like, oh, that was easy today. Continue that method. If it was like, that was a little challenging, let me switch it up. And I encourage you to do that because we need to find what works best for us. And again, 6 years in the industry, some days you have off days. I've literally have felt like before, like, oh my God, I can't do nails today. Like I just suck today. And those days happen. Like you have to give yourself grace. You're only human. That wraps up today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys want to learn or what you guys are struggling with so I can make videos that are dedicated to you guys.